very early good morning to you. I'm one of those people that can't adjust to daylight savings changes. We'll be getting up very early for some time to come. I think it started with Chris Webby's great song Whistle, in which he talked about the power of music and how you can become addicted to a song and listen to it over and over again. That happened to me with the Bob Dylan song Brownsville Girl, which I recently discovered and then had to listen to over and over again. And I mentioned in that reaction that this has happened to me many times in my life, and certainly with other Bob Dylan songs. I mentioned Saturday Day at the Lowland, I mentioned Tangled Up in Blues, and there are others. Close connection to my heart on the Empire Burlesque album is a song that I just can't stop listening to. I thought I would open up a new playlist on my channel. I'm calling it Songs of My Life. Songs that I became addicted to and listened to over and over again. And in some cases they were whole albums. I've already done a couple that are in my top 5 all-time favorite albums. Beach Boys' Pet Sound, represented by God Only Knows. The Marvin Gaye What's Going On album, which both of those have had very low views on this channel. But sometimes you just do stuff because you want to do them, because the music means so much to you. I thought it only fair that I should do a Joni Mitchell song, because on the ladies' side, she's a talent very near to Dylan's as far as a singer, songwriter, performer, musician. And I've certainly enjoyed Joni's work, from early on. But in the late 70s, she began to go more towards a jazz sound. And that's when I really started to become addicted to Joni. Her album, Hejira, and I apologize if I'm not pronouncing that Arabic word correctly, but it's a word that means basically journey. And her album, Hejira, came out around 1977, I believe, and just a mesmerizing album. Songs that she wrote on a journey, or a number of journeys that she made across America, starting with being part of Dylan's tour, but then a couple other trips that she made on her own or with friends. She imported some talent from the jazz group Weather Report, most notably, in my mind at least, the bassist Jaco Pastorius. And his playing on this song that I'm going to react to, Refuge of the Roads, is just dreamiest bass guitar work I've ever heard anywhere. The fact that it was overdubbed onto her recording, you would never know. It just seems so natural. It was her first work with Jaco, and then she later did a number of other albums actually with the whole jazz group. And I would mention the next album, Don Juan's Reckless Daughter. There's one song on there that I've also become totally lost in, called Paprika Plains. I think it's 16 minutes. It takes a whole side of one record. Probably Joni's greatest work. I could listen to that song over and over again. This is the album cover on your screen, and since there's no video of the song itself, I'll just leave the album cover up there.
I met a friend of spirit. He drank and womanized, and I sat before his sanity. I was holding back from crying. He saw my complications, and he mirrored me back simplified, and we laughed how our perfection would always be denied.
Maybe you don't even recognize that instrument as a bass guitar because it's way, way higher in range than you normally expect a bass guitar to sound. And also, Jaco invented practically the electric fretless guitar. He took an old Fender bass and removed all the frets and then filled in the holes with epoxy so that he can hit all of those notes. And I'm not enough of a musician to explain exactly what he's doing there. All I am is a fan who can appreciate a beautiful, beautiful sound.
Heart and humor and humility, he said, will lighten up your heavy load. I left him then for the refuge of the roads. I fell in with some drifters, cast upon a beach town, Winn-Dixie cold cuts and highway hand-me-downs. And I wound up fixing dinner for them in Boston Gym. I well up with affection, thinking back down the roads till then. The nets were overflowing in the Gulf of Mexico. They were overflowing in the refuge of the
roads. It's like the bass is a lead guitar. He's got that fuzz tone in there. All I know is I've never heard anything like it outside of Jimi Hendrix. I think Jaco is the bass guitar, perhaps what Jimmy was to the electric guitar. A monumental figure who changed the way that the instrument was played. When this album came out in the 70s, I would listen to this song over and over again. But it wasn't until I just replayed it here in the last few days, the bass playing stuck out as the reason that I was so addicted to the song. I knew it was a beautiful piece of music, but I never analyzed that closely before. You know, I heard the song as a whole. Now when I go back and listen, it's just overwhelmed by the bass performance here.
There was spring along the ditches. There were good times in the cities. Oh, radiant happiness. It was all so light and easy till I started analyzing. And I brought on my old ways. A thunderheaded judgment was gathering in my gaze.
Tears to your eyes, almost, the beauty of it. And if you know the rest of the story, poor Jaco, substance abuse, mental illness, and an untimely violent death. But what a talent. And poor Joni, well, I say poor Joni, she struggled in her later years. She's had a lot of illness. She was a trailblazer for women, I guess. In one sense, you know, she kind of epitomizes the sexual revolution because Joni had relationships all over the place, with other musicians on the road, one night stands with Sam Shepard, allegedly. One of the tours, I believe in '76, she went out with a band, and her boyfriend at the time was the drummer in the group. Well, one thing led to another, and they ended up breaking up in North Dakota in the middle of the tour, and the tour ended prematurely. Was canceled. She saw refuge in the roads from a lot of broken hearts. It left a lot of broken hearts along the way. She was restless, always wanting to move. You get that sense from the song of, and later one of my favorite lines, I think, is coming up. She talks about she was running like a white-ass deer. For those of you familiar with the East Coast variety of deer, they have the white tails, the white flags, signal when they run.
I pulled off into a forest, crickets clicking in the ferns, like a wheel of fortune. I heard my fate turn, 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 and I went running down a white sand road. I was running like a white-ass deer, running to lose the blues to the innocence in the earth. These are the clouds of Michelangelo, muscular with gods and sun gold. Shine on your witness in the refuge of the roads. In a highway service station, over the month of June, was a photograph of the earth taken coming back from the moon. And you couldn't see a city on that marbled bowling ball, or a forest, or a highway, or me here least of all. You couldn't see these cold water restrooms, or this baggage overload, westbound and rolling, taking refuge in the roads.
How does he even do that? In some cases, I think Jaco would lay down multiple bass tracks. I'm not sure if that's what's going on here, but you hear the really low tones, and then almost simultaneously you hear, the singing high bass tones. So perhaps there is some double or triple dubbing going on here. And perhaps it's best that this was overdubbed, because I imagine it would be very difficult to sing over the top of some of those bass lines, just because I would be so distracted by the beauty of them. I would stop singing and just listen. there's a better bass line in any rock and roll song, I'd like to know what it is. Because I've never heard it. A lot of her fans were kind of put off by the jazz sound. She'd been a confessional singer-songwriter, a girl with a guitar, and later she began to add some rock and roll elements, which most people did at that time. But then when she went to jazz, that was a little bit of a step too far for some fans. On the other hand, she gained a lot of new fans who appreciated that jazzy sound. I have a blog. I'll put a link in the comments. I have a blog about my top 40 albums of my life. And I rated this one at number 10, but I really think, in retrospect, I need to move it up maybe to number 4 or 5, because it's such a beautiful album. And don't know it, check it out.